Meganium is the worst starter of them all! Nah, how could you? Meganium is great, just like all the other Johto starters. So here's 50 facts on all of them. The Chikorita family is the only evolutionary family of a starter Pokemon to not have their names changed for the English release. Though the spelling changed slightly, but it wasn't anything too drastic, so the evolutionary family were able to keep their Japanese voices for the English dub of the anime. If you take a look at Ash's Cyndaquil or Kulava, you'll see that they always learn 2 moves at a time, or rather, learned all of its moves in pairs. However, Aerial Ace is the only move that doesn't fall in this category. Among Ash's Johto Pokemon, Ash's Totodile is the only one that can evolve that hasn't evolved at least once. But hey, I think we're all glad that Totodile got to remain its adorable little self. Bayleaf has a necklace of sorts that's similar to real bay leaves. However, this necklace of bay leaves is said to have a spicy aroma, while real bay leaves are said to have a bitter and herbal taste similar to thyme. Yeah, bay leaves are rather confusing when you're a Pokemon fan. Not only is Ash's Kulava his only fire starter to not evolve in the region that it was caught in, but Ash's Kulava holds the record for taking the longest to evolve out of any Pokemon in the anime, having took 507 episodes to evolve. This means it took Cyndaquil around a decade to evolve. That's more time than Ash has been alive for. The previous record holder for this was Brock Steelix, who spent somewhere between 403 and 446 episodes as an Onix. And between Ash's Pokemon, the record holder was his Donphan, who spent 198 episodes as a Phanpy. Johto Pokemon just don't want to evolve, man. In the 5th generation of Pokemon games, Game Freak banned Pokemon with offensive nicknames from being traded on the GTS. This also applied to Pokemon with offensive words in their regular names, like Cofagrigus. Surprisingly, the English Croconaut was also affected. While there's nothing offensive in English, the GTS filters offensive words from all main playable languages. In French, con means idiot, which is why Croconaut was banned. To trade Croconaut, players have to give it a nickname. Thankfully, the GTS name system changed after Gen 5, allowing Croconaut to be traded without issues, but idiot is such a dumb word to ban. In the Pokemon special The Legend of Thunder, Vincent's Meganium was the only one that wasn't shown in its middle form. Jimmy's Kulava was briefly shown in the episode A New Oath, while Marina's Croconaut, Wani appeared as a Croconaut throughout the special. Meganium, however, was shown as a Chikorita briefly and spent the rest of his time on screen as a Meganium. And of the 3 starters, Jimmy's Typhlosion is the only one to not have been seen in the main anime. This is because Jimmy himself has never made an appearance, whereas Vincent battled Ash in the Silver Conference under the name Jackson, and Marina has made several different cameos in the Diamond and Pearl series. And as I mentioned earlier, Marina's Croconaut, Wani is the only one of the 3 Johto starters that isn't in its final form. I'd make a Frieza meme about Wani, but it seems it did reach its final form somewhere in the Diamond and Pearl series, as Marina's briefly shown to use a Feraligatr then. The nickname Wani either comes from Totodile's Japanese name, Waninoko, or just simply Wani, the Japanese word for crocodile. Ever wish you could have all 3 Johto starters right from the start? In Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal, there's a glitch that lets you do just that. Save before choosing your starter, then clone it by resetting the game during the cloning process. This will transport you back to the starter selection screen while your old starter is in the PC box. Repeat this process to get all 3 starters. This glitch also works on the Virtual Console releases. However, it behaves slightly differently in Crystal, so you'll need a different tutorial based on the game that you play. I tried it myself, and while it made the game much easier, it was incredibly fun to play with all 3 starters. In Pokemon Sun and Moon, through the use of the Island Scan feature, you can actually catch all 3 Johto Pokemon in their base forms in the game. Chikorita on Route 2 on Fridays, Cyndaquil on Route 3 on Sundays, and Totodile in Seaward Cave on Mondays. I don't know if you noticed, but Johto is technically the only region that has an exact number of 3 different protagonists in the video games: Ethan, Chris, and Lyra, with Chris being exclusive to Crystal and Lyra to Heart Gold, Soul Silver. Because of that, in Pokemon Masters, all 3 of them are present and all 3 of them use different Johto starters and their evolutions: Cyndaquil for Ethan, Totodile for Chris, and Chikorita for Lyra. Silver, being Ethan's rival, also has a Feraligatr, so we got 2 Feraligatr uses here. Chikorita's beta name was Happa, which literally means leaf, and it looked a lot different then as well. After it went through some changes and its base design was established for both its early game and in-game artwork, it went through a color alteration, as Chikorita was originally a lot more yellow, but then it got changed to the green that it is today. With the leak of the Pokemon Gold Space World demo, we learned some fascinating things about the Johto games. We already knew that Cyndaquil and Totodile weren't the original fire and water starters. Instead, there was a fire bear named Honoguma and a water seal or sea lion named Kurusu. Chikorita was a part of the original starter trio and made it to the final cut. The beta leak revealed the evolutionary lines of all 3 families. The Honoguma and Kurusu families had cool designs all throughout. While Chikorita's family was interesting, with Bayleaf originally designed as a cocoon-like Pokemon, and Meganium having a different floral pattern. All of the beta designs are intriguing. I love the Chikorita, Cyndaquil, and Totodile families as they are today, and can't imagine them being replaced as the Johto starters. Cyndaquil also has another beta sprite that was created at some point, but looked to be some kind of other type of Pokemon, maybe grass or poison or something, but it definitely wasn't designed to be a fire type at first. In the Pokemon Adventures manga, Crystal is the protagonist who uses the Chikorita family. Surprisingly, it was Chikorita who chose Crystal, wanting to go on an adventure after the other two starters had left with other protagonists. Crystal initially refused due to having too many party members, but Chikorita's persistence impressed her. Eventually, Chikorita earned a spot on the team. Now, Crystal's fully evolved Meganium, named Rileyy, is the strongest member of her team at level 80. Funny enough, in the Brazilian-Portuguese translation, Rileyy is referred to as a female, even though Rileyy is a male. Gold from Pokemon Adventures had received Cyndaquil from Professor L. Gold named the Cyndaquil Expo, and it fully evolved into Typhlosion along his journey, and even became his strongest Pokemon at level 84. And Silver from Adventures, on the other hand, stole a Totodile from Professor Elm's lab, because of course he would. Totodile willingly stayed with Silver and eventually evolved into Feraligatr, reaching level 83. Despite being his second strongest Pokemon with Weavile 84, Silver and Feraligatr share a very strong bond. In the Pokemon Adventures manga, Gold, Silver, and Crystal were attacked by Lugia, who even tried to crush him with its body. Fortunately, their starter Pokemon emerged and all of them evolved simultaneously to save their trainers. Silver explains that when Pokemon of similar backgrounds come together and one begins to evolve, the others will also evolve. This phenomenon is also seen in the anime in Bulbasaur's Mysterious Garden, and after evolving, the three Pokemon manage to stop and capture Lugia, strengthening the bond between the Pokemon and their trainers. While Gold is typically seen with Cyndaquil and Typhlosion, and consequently, Silver is typically seen with Totodile and Feraligatr, and then Chris or Lyra are given Chikorita and Meganium, the Pokemon Gold and Silver Golden Boys shown in Pokemon manga featured Gold with Totodile, and Silver, whose name was Black, with Chikorita, and Chris here with Cyndaquil. Odd pairing, I know. Unfortunately, the manga ends abruptly near the Siamwood City part of the Johto story, and to be fair, Silver released Bayleaf here and Gold took it, so Men was running with two starters. But there was another manga called Pocket Monsters Heart Gold Soul Silver, Joe's Big Adventure, where Gold, who's known as Joe, and Silver, who's known as Tsubaki, are basically running solo runs with, again, Totodile and Chikorita respectively. And this time, Silver keeps Chikorita, and I won't lie, it looks pretty cool as a Meganium. They actually managed to make it look somewhat edgy, but to be fair, this whole manga is drawn just like that. And funnily enough, for the majority of this manga, Gold keeps Totodile as a Totodile. It's only near the end where he fully evolves it into Feraligatr. The Johto starters are all pure type starters. I'm just kidding, that's not one of the facts. But you know what else is pure? Your heart. It's so pure that you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button to support the channel and get more of these fact videos going. Wow, so pure, you wonderful human being, you. Thank you. In the spin-off titled Pokepark Wii Pikachu's Adventure, many starter Pokemon appeared. However, Feraligatr was the only fully evolved Johto starter to appear in the adventure. Goated spin-off game, anyone who says otherwise is stupid. Typhlosion and Charizard, along with their respective evolutionary lines, have the exact same base stat total and distribution. Infernape also shares the same base stat total, however its individual stats are different. Well, there had to be a reason as to why the Charizard fans like Cyndaquil so much. Kulava and Typhlosion are known as the Volcano Pokemon. They share this category with Entei, who's said to be born out of volcanoes, and fittingly enough, all three Pokemon can learn the move Eruption. In Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, the joyful game corner on the Sevi Islands featured a minigame called Pokemon Jump. In this game, players control their Pokemon to jump over Venusaur's Vine Whip, similar to Jump Rope. Interestingly, while every base starter Pokemon and even immobile ones like Metapod and Kakuna can participate, Chikorita is the only starter that cannot. The reason is unclear. It would have been fitting if Meganium had used Vine Whip as the rope and if Chikorita couldn't participate then, but I don't know what happened here. Maybe next minigame Chikorita can participate. Feraligatr is the earliest fully evolved starter Pokemon that you can get at level 30. No other starter Pokemon evolves this early, with the earliest others being at level 32. However, the trade-off for this is that Totodile evolves into Croconaw at level 18. The longest takes for any starter Pokemon to evolve, a tie with Turtwig and Growl in this case. In a Pokemon Diamond and Pearl beta leak, it was revealed that every Pokemon was supposed to have gender differences, including the Johto starters. While this idea was cool, it was only partially implemented, with only a few Pokemon having gender differences in the final game. Among the 9 Johto starters, Meganium was the only one to feature any gender differences. Cyndaquil is the starter Pokemon available in most Core Series games, with a total of 6 games. The Gen 2 games, the remakes, and of course, Legends Arceus. Cyndaquil's Blueberry Pokedex image features a Cyndaquil battling a Skarmory. This references the episode Hot Matches, where Ash and Cyndaquil battle the trainer Skarmory. Gotta love Scarlet and Violet Easter eggs. Since their debut in the TCG with the Neo Genesis set, Chikorita has had 19 card prints, Bayleaf has had 11, and Meganium has had 12. Cyndaquil has been featured on 19 different cards, Quilava on 14, and Typhlosion on 19. And Totodile also got 19 cards, Croconaw on 15, and Feraligatr got 16. In Pokemon Ranger, most Pokemon can be captured during the main story, but there are few known as rare Pokemon, accessible only in the post-game after the credits roll. Among the 27 rare Pokemon, All 3 fully evolved Johto Starters are available for capture. This makes them the only fully evolved set of starters classified as rare Pokemon in the game. I wish I caught them all before losing my copy of Pokemon Ranger. In Pokemon Coliseum, you'll encounter 3 Mystery Troop members, each with the Middle Evolution Johto Starter as a shout-out Pokemon. You can snag one during the main story, while the other 2 become available in the post-game. In Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, you can obtain all 3 Johto Starters in their base forms as a reward for beating all of Mount Battle without using a PC or retiring. Complete this challenge 3 times to receive all 3 Johto Starters. Casey's Meganium as a Chikorita was the first Pokemon seen to be using a Generation 2 move in the entire anime. In this case, it was Sweet Scent. Out of all the Johto Starters, Chikorita is the one that's most used in the anime, being owned by a total of 5 different trainers. Ash, Casey, Vincent, Silver, no, not this guy, but this guy, and Lyra, with Ash being the only one to not have received Chikorita as a starter Pokemon. It's hard to determine the genders of certain Pokemon in the anime, but it was pretty obvious that Ash's Bayleaf was a female, with all the extra affection it showed him and all. In fact, Bayleaf was his first ever confirmed female Pokemon. Despite catching many Pokemon in the Johto Saga, Ash's Bayleaf was the only one to evolve during that time. Out of all of his Kanto and Johto Pokemon, Chikorita was the only one that evolved, making Bayleaf his only Grass-type Pokemon that evolved once. Every other Grass-type Pokemon he owns has either evolved twice or not at all. Quilava isn't just owned by Ash, it's owned by another main character as well, Dawn. And though Dawn did own some Johto Pokemon for some time, Quilava is actually Dawn's only non-Gen 4 Pokemon on hand. It's also the first Fire-type starter Pokemon belonging to a main character to have been obtained outside of its native region, the first Pokemon owned by a main character to hatch from an egg in the same episode where the egg was obtained, and her Quilava is the only Pokemon that belonged to a main cast to evolve in a special episode, Hikari setting off a new journey. It was the first special episode of the Diamond and Pearl anime, and it was actually an episode that was never dubbed, also making this the only episode where a Pokemon from the main cast evolves in an episode that wasn't dubbed. Though it's probably the most popular Generation 2 starter, Typhlosion was one of the only officially introduced Generation 2 Pokemon to not appear in the anime until the next generation, meaning that it didn't show up throughout the Johto Saga of the anime and had to wait for the Hoenn Saga to appear on screen, and that too through the Legend of Thunder, which also means that Blaziken appeared in the anime well in advance before Typhlosion ever did. Crazy, eh? The only other Johto Pokemon with Typhlosion here is Togetic. The Pokemon XY anime is the only series where Ash is a protagonist in which Totodile has not appeared in any capacity. Despite what you may think about Ash's Totodile being a male, its gender is actually officially unconfirmed, though in the English dub it was referred to as a male. Yeah, I think most of us would agree on that. Totodile was Ash's first Pokemon to be kept in a Pokeball that wasn't an actual Pokeball, but a Pokeball variant or an Apricorn variant. In this case, a Lure Ball. His 30 Tauros were actually his first Pokemon caught in different balls, in their case Safari Balls, but they're all kept in regular Pokeballs, whereas Totodile was caught in a Lure Ball and made it home in that Lure Ball. Ash Ketchum has a habit of catching Pokemon that previous trainers have owned. In fact, my most popular video is on that particular topic, but please don't watch it now because that video actually sucks. And when it comes to the starter Pokemon, he tends to own quite a lot of starters that previously belonged to other trainers. But when it comes to the 3 fullest sets of starter Pokemon that he owns, that being his Kanto, Johto, and Univin starters, the Johto Starters are the only starter trio that Ash owns that hadn't belonged to any trainer or professor prior to the capture. And finally, in the Generation 2 Pokemon games, your starter always holds a berry when you receive it from Professor Elm. However, your rival starter does not have a berry when you battle them. One might argue that your rival starter consumed it on the way to Cherry Grove City, but since it's at level 5 and full HP, it's likely it hasn't battled. It's possible your rival not only stole the starter from Elm, but also took the berry for themselves. Yeah, that guy is a full-on jerk. Next week, we return to Legendary Pokemon and cover 50 facts on Legendary Pokemon from Gen 6 to 9. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you over on next week's video.